NCERT Class 7 Science Chapter Respiration in Organisms. The food has stored energy which is released during respiration. All living organisms respire to get energy from food. During breathing, we breathe in air. Air contains oxygen. We breathe out air which is rich in carbon dioxide. The air we breathe in is transported to all parts of the body and ultimately to each cell. In the cells, oxygen in the air helps in the breakdown of food. The process of breakdown of food in the cell with the release of energy is called cellular respiration. Cellular respiration takes place in the cells of all organisms. In the cell, the food, glucose, is broken down into carbon dioxide and water using oxygen. When breakdown of glucose occurs with the use of oxygen, it is called aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration means when the breakdown of glucose occurs with the use of oxygen. Food can also be broken down without using oxygen. This is called anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration means food is break down without using oxygen. Breakdown of food release energy. Glucose in the presence of oxygen gives carbon dioxide plus water plus energy. There are some organisms such as yeast that can survive in the absence of air. They are called anaerobes. They get energy through anaerobic respiration. Glucose in the absence of oxygen gives alcohol plus carbon dioxide plus energy. In aerobic respiration, glucose in the presence of oxygen gives carbon dioxide, water, energy. In anaerobic respiration, glucose in the absence of oxygen gives alcohol, carbon dioxide, energy. During heavy exercise, fast running, cycling, walking for many hours or heavy weightlifting, the demand for energy is high, but the supply of oxygen to produce the energy is limited. Then anaerobic respiration takes place in the muscle cells to fulfill the demand of energy. Glucose in the absence of oxygen gives lactic acid plus energy. Glucose in the muscles in the absence of oxygen gives lactic acid plus energy. The cramps occur when muscle cells respire anaerobically. The partial breakdown of glucose produces lactic acid. The accumulation of lactic acid causes muscle cramps. As the supply of oxygen to the muscle cells increases, the increase in the supply of oxygen results in the complete breakdown of lactic acid into carbon dioxide and water. Breathing. Breathing means taking in air rich in oxygen and giving out air rich in carbon dioxide with the help of respiratory organs. The taking in of air rich in oxygen into the body is called inhalation, and giving out of air rich in carbon dioxide is known as exhalation. The number of times a person breathes in a minute is termed as the breathing rate. During breathing, inhalation and exhalation takes place alternately. A breath means one inhalation plus one exhalation. A breath means one inhalation plus one exhalation. On an average, an adult human being at rest breathes in and out 15 to 18 times in a minute. During heavy exercise, the breathing rate can increase up to 25 times per minute. While we exercise, not only do we breathe first, we also take deep breaths and thus inhale more oxygen. So in rest, 15 to 18 times in a minute. In heavy exercise, 25 times per minute. And while in heavy exercise, we not only breathe fast, but we take deep breaths and thus inhale more oxygen. How do we breathe? We take in air through our nostrils. It passes through our nostrils into the nasal cavity. From the nasal cavity, the air reaches our lungs through the windpipe. Lungs are present in the chest cavity. This cavity is surrounded by ribs on the sides. A large muscular sheet called diaphragm forms the floor of the chest cavity. A large muscular sheet called diaphragm forms the floor of the chest cavity. Breathing involves the movement of the diaphragm and the rib cage. So how do we breathe? We take in air through our nostrils. It passes through our nostrils into the nasal cavity. From the nasal cavity, the air reaches our lungs through the windpipe. Lungs are present in the chest cavity. This cavity is surrounded by ribs on the sides. A large muscular sheet called diaphragm forms the floor of the chest cavity. Breathing involves the movement of the diaphragm and the rib cavity. During inhalation, ribs move up and outwards and diaphragm moves down. During inhalation, ribs move up and outwards and diaphragm moves down. This movement increases space in our chest cavity and air rushes into the lungs. The lungs get filled with air. During exhalation, ribs move down and inwards while diaphragm moves up to its former position. So during exhalation, ribs move down and inwards while diaphragm move up to its former position. This reduces the size of the chest cavity and air is pushed out of the lungs. These movements in our body can be felt easily. What do we breathe out? We exhale not only carbon dioxide, we exhale a mixture of gases along with it. The percentage of oxygen and carbon dioxide in inhalation and exhalation. The percentage of oxygen in inhaled air, 21% of oxygen, and the percentage of oxygen in exhaled air, 16.4% of oxygen. The percentage of carbon dioxide in inhaled air, 0.04%, and the percentage of carbon dioxide in exhaled air, 4.4%. Breathing in other animals. Cockroach. A cockroach has small openings on the sides of its body. Other insects also have similar openings. These openings are called spiracles. Insects have a network of air tubes called tracheae for gas exchange. Oxygen-rich air rushes through spiracles into the tracheae tubes and releases every cell of the body. And it reaches to every cell of the body. Similarly, carbon dioxide from the cells goes into the tracheal tube and moves out to the spiracles. Earthworm. The skin of an earthworm feels moist and slimy on touching. Gases can easily pass through them. Though frogs have a pair of lungs like human beings, they can also breathe through their skin, which is moist and slippery. Breathing underwater. Gills in fish helps to use oxygen dissolved in water. Gills are well supplied with blood vessels for exchange of gases. Do plants also respire? Plants also respire for their survival. They also take in oxygen from the air and give out carbon dioxide. In the cells, oxygen is used to break down glucose into carbon dioxide and water as in other organisms. In plants, each part can identically take in oxygen from the air and give out carbon dioxide. Tiny pores called stomata for exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide are present in plants' leaves. Like all other living cells of the plants, the root cells also need oxygen to generate energy. Roots take up air from the air spaces present between the soil particles. Thus, respiration is such an important biological process. All living organisms need to respire to get the energy needed for their survival. The key points of this chapter are: respiration is essential for survival of living organism. It releases energy from the food. The oxygen we inhale is used to break down glucose into carbon dioxide and water. Energy is released in this process. The breakdown of glucose occurs in the cells of an organism, cellular respiration. If the food is break down with the use of oxygen, it is called aerobic respiration. If the breakdown occurs without the use of oxygen, the respiration is called anaerobic respiration. During heavy exercise, when the supply of oxygen to our muscle cells is insufficient, food breakdown is by anaerobic respiration. Breathing is a part of process of respiration during which an organism takes in the oxygen-rich air and gives out air rich in carbon dioxide. The respiratory organs for the exchange of gases vary in different organisms. During inhalation, our lungs expand and then come back to the original state as the air moves out during exhalation. Increased physical activity enhances the rate of breathing. In animals like cow, buffalo, dog, and cat, the respiratory organs and the process of breathing are similar to those in humans. In earthworm, the exchange of gases occurs through the moist skin. In fishes, it takes place through gills, and in insects through the trachea. In a plant, the roots takes in air present in the soil. Leaves has tiny pores called stomata through which they exchange gases. The breakdown of glucose in the plants is similar to that in other living beings.